In a previous video I showed a quilt table that I made, and this is part 2, and in this video I show some of the construction details in case anybody wants to know how it was made. You can see I removed the top from the table here, and that exposes a lot of the details. One of the things I did when I made this table was I added a lot of cleats. Right here is a cleat. And those cleats have holes in them and that lets me screw the top to the table. And beneath the cleat you see a bunch of other holes in the shelves, and those provide a place for the screwdriver to come up through the shelf so that the top can be attached from below. Here's another cleat. Let's see, they're all over the place actually. Obviously on the other side there's a cleat. There's a lot of cleats like here on the interior as well. Here's another one. What we're looking at now is the top of the ironing board. I'm going to pull it out again, and that lets you see that the ironing board slides inside of two parallel pieces of wood. I could have used a metal, store-bought kind of thing, but I thought this would be pretty strong, and it worked out pretty well. Let's see, right here is the well. You can see, I showed the well in the previous video and how it's used. And again, here's a cleat. Here's holes below the cleat to provide access from below. One thing you can't tell when the table is put together is back here there's a piece of wood that is removable, and that provides access to the ironing board, so the stops can be removed from the ironing board, and that allows the ironing board to be pulled completely out of the table. Okay, I removed the ironing board from the table, and I flipped it upside down. I have it laying on a white piece of foam so we can look at it. One thing I worried about was that the ironing board might flex as it was being pushed down on. So I added a center rib. You can see that rib here. Into the rib I put a hand grip. Hang on a second. Here we go. Alright. There's the hand grip, and so when you reach into the table to pull the ironing board out, you can grab that grip. And then the last thing I did related to this rib is I removed a bit of wood. See that groove up the middle? And I just did that to reduce the weight overall. It still left it plenty strong. One of the, here's one of the shelves that I've pulled out of the table. I talked in my earlier video about how they could be removed, and I'll just take a look at it. From the top it's just rectangular. Now let me flip it over. Hang on a second. Okay, what you can see now that it's upside down, you can see the stops that I talked about earlier. The stops are just pieces of wood that are screwed to the bottom of the shelf, and those are the things that prevent the shelf from falling out or from being pulled out incorrectly. One thing you might wonder is when the sewing machine is in the table, how's the deck of the sewing machine kept flush with the top of the table? And what achieves that are these pieces of wood here. All I did was I added wood that's the right size to bring the sewing machine up to the right height, And if you look at the back of this piece of wood, you can see I put spacers on it. And those spacers are made just the right height to bring the machine right where I wanted it. So these pieces of wood are completely removable. If you put in another machine, you just would have to make a couple more pieces of wood to bring it up to the right height as well. The last thing I'm going to show is the underside of the table. So I've flipped it over on its back. And there's a couple things here that might be of some interest. First of all, the table's heavy enough that I put in a center support. The other thing I worried about was if someone were to pick up this table, they might use the toe kicks as a handhold, and they could conceivably rip the toe kicks off. So I put in a lot of 45-degree bracing on the toe kick on the front, and then here's some 45-degree bracing on the toe kick on the back. 1, 2. I added this thing too. It's kind of the same idea, I guess. And the same over here on this toe kick. All the bracing everywhere. And last, at the front. So the underside, the bottom shelf. This is the underside of the bottom shelf. That's just a piece of 1/2-inch plywood. You know, I used 3/4-inch plywood for the top and for all the other shelves, but 1/2 inch was plenty for this because it's supported in a lot of places. And I guess that's about it.